Hello, backyard vegetable gardeners. Welcome to the Backyard Vegetable Gardening channel. Today is Friday, February the 28th, 2025, and I sure hope you're having a great day. In today's video, we're going to give you 7 tips on how you can be a better gardener. Tip number 1, know your frost dates. Where I live in northwestern North Carolina, my last average frost date's around April 27th. And my first expected frost is around October 17th. It gives me about 172 days in my growing season. If you don't know when your frost dates are, you can learn that by going to almanac.com, clicking the menu button, finding weather, clicking on frost dates. In the search box, type in your zip code and then hit the search button and it'll give you your frost dates. By knowing your first and last frost date, you'll know when you can get your seeds started and when you can get those transplants out in the ground. Additionally, you can know how many successions you can plant during the season. If you want to be a successful gardener and you live in a place that receives frost, then you certainly need to know when your first and last frost dates are. And tip number 2 is plant hardiness zones have absolutely nothing to do with when we start our seeds indoors. I live in North Carolina, Zone 7B. You might live in Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, even West Virginia, and still be in that same growing zone. The problem is our frost dates are going to be off by a few weeks, which means you are not going to be able to set your plants out in the garden the same time I do if you live in any of those other areas, which also means you're not going to need to start your seeds the same time I do. What a plant hardiness zone is, it's a geographical area that's defined by the average lowest temperature experienced during the winter. The reason that's important is so we can know what type of perennials will survive our winter. It has absolutely nothing to do with when we get our seeds started indoors. A good example of that is I grow citrus, but I have to grow them in containers. Where I live, my Meyer lemons and my navel oranges cannot survive my winters. So every year when the weather starts getting cold and we get a danger of frost, I have to move those plants indoors. If I don't do that, they're not going to survive. But if I lived toward the coast of North Carolina, I might be able to do that if I kept them under cover. But where I live in Zone 7B, I don't need to be trying that. So knowing your plant hardiness zones is important, but it has nothing to do with when we start our seeds. And the third tip that'll help you be a better gardener is to start out small. Now guys, I know that might sound like common sense, but that's one of the biggest reasons for failure that new gardeners experience. When you are new to gardening, you do not need to start out with more than you can take care of. I've seen a lot of people, they'll go out and they'll till up a 20 by 20 plot and they just can't take care of it. What you need to do is start out with a few container plants, say 5 or 10, or maybe a 4 by 8 raised bed or a similar sized plot in the earth. There's a whole lot to learn about growing food, and it takes time and experience. By starting off small, you can prevent a whole lot of unnecessary frustration, and it'll give you the time and opportunity to build those skills that'll help you be more successful. And the fourth tip that'll help you be a better gardener is pick varieties that are known to grow well in your area. For example, I've got some friends who live in the uppermost part of Maine. They wouldn't benefit near as much as I would by growing indeterminate tomato plants. My growing season is a lot longer for those warm weather crops than it is up there where they live. They do much better by planting some indeterminate plants. Another example is where I live in North Carolina. Growing my citrus, I have to grow them in containers. But if you lived further south than me, you could probably put them in the ground and they'd do well. I can't do that. So if I'm going to grow them, I know that there's going to be additional work involved, additional care steps. By knowing which crops grow the best in your area will increase your chances of success, which will make you a better gardener. And tip number 5, your garden doesn't always have to look like $1,000,000. Now guys, there's nothing wrong if you want to make your garden more aesthetically appealing. There's nothing wrong if you want to incorporate some design elements that promote your enjoyment. But at the end of the day, the goal is to grow more food. I'll be honest with you. There's times, particularly at the end of the season when it's really, really hot, I will let those weeds take over the paths. And there are times, many times, that I'll leave tools and supplies out in the garden. But the goal is to grow food, not to make the cover of Home and Garden Television or to make this YouTube channel. If you want to be a successful gardener, you just got to know things ain't always going to be perfect, and you got to be all right with that. Tip number 6, is learn to have fun while you're out in the garden. You know, I've never met a successful gardener that didn't enjoy his time out in the garden. But let's be honest, not every time we're out in the garden is a pleasant experience. We get hot and sweaty, we're bent over all the time, we're handling heavy items. Sometimes it's just no fun. So some of the things that you can do is like, you can enjoy snacking while you're out in the garden. Grab you a pea or a bean or something like that, a carrot, maybe a tomato, sweet pepper. What we did was we planted strawberries all throughout the garden. So many times in the summer months, we can go out there. We've got some Juneberry and some Everberry, and we've got some little alpine berries that produce through the whole season. It's quite fun. Another thing you can do is you can bring the kids along with you. One of the things that we have out in the garden is I keep one bed that's empty. The kids do whatever they want. They can play in it, they can plant in it. I've got a little shade tarp over it. Works really good. They have a lot of fun. And there's really nothing much better out in the garden than spending time with your family. Since we got these grandbabies, man, I'm telling you live, one of the greatest experiences that I have from day to day is getting those little ones involved, taking them with me. It's just great fun. And tip number 7 is gardening isn't for lazy people. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but it's just the simple truth. You know, there's an old saying, hurry every chance you get. That saying doesn't suggest that we ought to stay in a rush. But what it does mean is that when the opportunity presents itself to speed up production, we don't waste the opportunity. Growing a successful garden takes time and experience, and there's very little we can do to change that. Even if you have other responsibilities, if you're serious about growing food, you're just going to have to get serious about putting the time in and doing the work, not making excuses. And that was my 7 tips for being a better gardener. If you want to learn more ways to become a better gardener, you can click on this video right here, which is our 10 rules for a successful garden. There's actually 2 of those videos. One is a standard length version, it's 30 minutes long, and there's one that's greatly reduced. We call it our ADHD version, which is only 10 minutes long. And those videos are part of our Beginner Gardeners playlist that we started last year, and I'll link those for you right here. Thanks for watching. Sure hope you're having a great day.